If your website still looks like black text on a white background, you are doing HTML wrong. Let me show you how internal CSS can instantly transform it into something beautiful. Hey everyone, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we're going to look into internal CSS. In our last class, we started HTML styles CSS, right? And we used inline CSS to demonstrate for the last class. So if you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch it. It's very important. And if you are coming across our page or YouTube channel for the first time, you're welcome to Code with Chris. This channel or page is dedicated in teaching web development from scratch for free. So whether you're a total beginner or someone looking to sharpen your skills in coding, in web development to be precise, this channel is the right channel for you. So I urge you to subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified whenever a new video drops. And also, don't forget to follow us across other platforms like Facebook and TikTok at the same handle, Codewithkhrist. All right, so let's go into the class proper. Now, what is internal CSS? Internal CSS is CSS written inside an HTML document using style elements. Usually inside the head section, right? Inside the head section, just beneath the title, right? Unlike inline CSS, our last class we talked of inline CSS, so go back and watch the video. It's very important. Now, inline CSS is a CSS whereby style function as an attribute. Is a CSS type of CSS that has a special attribute known as style, and this style, inside the attribute we now have our CSS properties like color, of course, background color, text align, padding, margin, different styles you want to give your document, right? Background color, text align, flex, grid, line height, text transformation, and all of that, right? So now inline CSS function as an attribute, right? Inside the attribute we declare our different style property, right? But for internal CSS is a type of CSS whereby this CSS style here now function as an element, right? As a tag, opening and closing tag, style element or tag, right? And is usually indicated inside the head section, right? So now for today's class, let's just go ahead and create a new file. Okay, you already know how to do that. You can right click on this empty our empty space, and then this is file, right? You click file, and then let's name it internal.html, right? Remember, it must always end with HTML for HTML5. All right, so now the next thing to do is to bring out our boilerplate or HTML skeleton, right? So, and of course, you know how to do that. Either shift 1 or you type HTML and pick HTML5, right? So you're going to bring out our boilerplate. All right, so now, okay, so let's just go ahead and demonstrate, right? Let's just say I have H1. Okay, inside it I have internal CSS class. All right, so let me run this. If I run this on my browser, I click go live, right? Of course, generated the portal now. All right, so you can see I have internal CSS, right? So now to style this, there are different ways you can actually style this particular element with this write-up internal CSS, right? So now 2 ways you can style using internal CSS. One is by referencing it using the element name. Now H1 is an element. It's an element name. Body here is an element, right? So body is an element name. Let's take for instance, okay, let's if I go to my head section, of course, style element, sorry, which is for styling using internal CSS. Right, so style element, and then now if I call this body, which is what, an element name, is that means all the styles I'm going to give here is going to affect the whole of the document. Because why? Style body here is a is a type of element that is used for sectioning. Is a document sectioning element. In our last classes, I've talked about different types of elements that we have, ranging from document roots or metadata elements, document sectioning and all of that element, block element and a line element, right? And here, this body is serving as a container. The body element represent the content of the document. So therefore, that means all the content we have for our document is actually inside the body element. That means whatever style I give here, referencing the element, is going to affect the whole of the document, right? So let's take, for instance, so let me have a background. So okay, let me type it background, let me say blue. Background blue, right? Let me go to my browser. Right, you can see now the whole of our document or our website is having a background color of blue, right? Because this is an element name. I'm going with an element name, and I'm also referencing an element that is serving as a container for all other content, right? So if I go with let me give it a font family. Font family. Okay. Sans serif. All right, so that means all the fonts in our document will be sans serif, apart from maybe you now reference that particular element and then give it a separate font. So that means I can actually style this h1 using the element name, right? H1. But the one of the disadvantages of this is that if you have multiple elements, just like if I have multiple h1 element, that means that particular style will be unique for all the h1 elements we have in. So that is just the the disadvantage, right? Then another way to do that is to give it what is called a global attribute. Either class is a global attribute and id is a global attribute. So is either you give your element a global attribute. Let me just, okay, let me style this h1, right, using the element name. So okay, let me give it a color. All right, let me give it a color of red, and then let me give it a background color. Yellow. All right, so if we go to our browser, so you can see it's having a color of red and then a background of yellow, right? So now let's just briefly design something else. Okay, so let me say I have and then okay, let's build a template, forget your password email template. So let's say forgot your password. Okay, so now I have another element. All right, another p element. Okay, so to reset your password, click the button below. Will serve destruct. After 5 days. All right, so okay, let me collapse this. All right, so now I can have a button element. Okay, inside the button element, let me have a write up, reset your password, set your password, and then let me have another another p element. So do not want to change your password or did not change, you can ignore and delete this email. All right, so now in our browser, let's see what we have. Let me refresh. This is what we have. All right, so now remember I said you can use global attributes, because if I use this element name, right, I have p element 1, 2, and 3. That means those three is going to have the same style, right, which is not what I'm looking for. All right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to wrap this inside a div. All right, so let me cut it out, and then div, and then paste it. All right, so let me format. You can format your document. You right click and then format document. All right, so now let me start this first of all using using the div, which is the element name. So div, and then all right, so go to my browser. Okay, let me refresh. All right, so it's having a background color of white. All right, okay, so I can give it a width. Let me give it a width. Let me look at 100. right, so 100 ps is too small. All right, 100% is actually the full screen. All right, okay, let me reduce this to 60%. All right, okay, so let me just make it 50. Okay, so now so the first p element, let me give it a class name. So a class name item 1, right? So now for class name we use dot the class name, which is item 1, but for id you use hash, to reference it. So now let me give it a color. Okay, color of blue. Okay, so it's having a color of blue. Right, let me give border radius. Okay, let me see 15px. Okay, I'm sure this is not correct. All right, so it's having a border radius of 15px. All right, so now let me give this give it a padding, general padding, of, okay, I can give the padding at the div. So let me give it at the div. So give it a general padding. Yes. Okay, so all right, so I have this general padding of 20px. All right, so now, so for the item 1, let me increase the font, or increase the font size. So font size, look at 30px. All right, so it's quite too big. Let me see 20. Okay, yeah, so I can give it a font weight, of 900. All right, font weight of 900. Now, okay, so now let me, the next element, let me give So ID item 2, right? So now for ID we use hash. So go back to our style element, and okay, so hash 2, all right. Let me reduce this font size. So font size, okay, so let me see 10px. So let me refresh. Okay, so let me just increase it a bit of 15. Okay, 15 is quite too big. So 12. Okay, so now the next is the button. Since I have only one button, let me just go with the element name. So button in background color. All right, so background color of blue. You can see it has border. All right, so I can remove the border. So border none, and then give it a padding top. For top and bottom, let me give it 5px, and then for left and right, let me give it 10px. You see, so top and bottom is having a 5px, left and right is having a 10px. So then let me give it a border radius. Border radius is the curveness of the edges. So border radius 10px. Still loading. All right, so it's having a border of 10. Okay, so let me give it a color of white. All right, okay, so I have this, and then the last p element, let me give it a class name. So that's item 3. Right, item 3, and then come down dot item 3. All right, so font size Okay, so let me give it 13px. All right, so that is it for inline internal elements or internal CSS. All right, so we've started CSS in full. And if you haven't followed us, make sure you are following. Thanks for watching. Bye.